Welcome to the Cheerful Soundman podcast. I'm Eric Lenasbunt, the Cheerful Soundman. I'm here at Vivid Sky Productions in Gainesville, Florida, an office in Tallahassee, Florida as well. We talk about the live events industry and working and living in the live events industry. Today I want to talk a little bit about event safety. So always, it's like always the nerdy topic that nobody wants to talk about, but it's also obviously the most important topic possible within our industry. There have been definitely some notable, major concert safety issues over the last 10, 15 years, everything back from the Indiana State Fair, which is probably, in my recent memory, or I would say in this century, probably impacted event safety more than just about any other singular event because it was so tragic. That was where there was some really bad weather that rolled in and basically blew the whole stage over. A lot of the audience had not evacuated yet. It was a really bad situation. Ended up changing the events industry. Changed a lot of high wind action plans, changed a lot of staging and engineering protocols, and then a lot of event organizer protocols. But that's kind of in the big picture side. But then also event safety comes down to small things too. So just everything down to taping down cables and cable ramps all the way up to high wind action plans and getting out of there if there's a hurricane or tornado or whatever, right? So couple main things that I want to talk about with event safety are, it does start with us, the production technicians at events, because we have the best eye on everything behind the scenes. So typically we're one of the first folks there and we're some of the last people there. So first in, last out, which means that we see things developing over the course of the day. So whether it's the setup of production, if it's a separate company setting up the stage, let's say another company setting up the barricades or security, we have the oftentimes ability, as long as we know what we're looking for, to get ahead of things and understand potential safety issues. As an example, I was working a festival a few years ago, and the festival, we were not responsible for the barricades in front. So you have the crash barricades, the barrier that everybody stands on and then presses up against. They were, unfortunately, I noticed they were pretty far into it when I actually was able to see it because I was doing something else on the stage. And then I noticed and I said, whoa, hold on. They only had a path about 1.5 or 2 feet wide between the stage and where the barricade started. And this presents a major safety issue because you don't have the egress you need. Now, first of all, I'm glad I caught them when they did, because had they built it all, the fire marshal, I don't know how active they were, but the fire marshal, if they saw that, would have then probably made them break down and move the whole thing, which would have, if they didn't catch that until the fire marshal was doing his walkthrough before doors, that could have caused the entire show to be delayed, possibly hours. But I saw that and I said, whoa, you need a minimum of 3 feet. Preferably with this barricade pass, you need 4 to 6 feet would be preferable, but a minimum of 3 feet, which kind of just goes down to like if you're in a building to 3 feet's kind of the good general rule. That varies depending on the fire marshal, depending on the placement. Please consult, your safety officer or your fire marshal there on the needs. But typically, any pass through, any entrance needs to be that 3 feet. So anyway, so I pointed that out. Unfortunately, it meant they had to do a whole bunch of extra work, but anytime you have a situation and you're judging it and you're looking at it and going, oh, that's going to be a whole lot of extra work, let's say, to bring that truss down and redo the rigging on it because it was done incorrectly. Well, the choice that you're making when you say, nah, it'll be fine, is really playing with people's safety and lives and well-being. And that's not something we can ever play around with. And that's where something like that of like, would it have been fine? Yeah, probably. But had there been an incident where medical needed to get through that barricade and around to get to somebody to help them, they may not have had enough room to get equipment through or get the person out safely or get enough people out safely. And those have been some of the major incidents and accidents that have happened in the production world. Egress is a big one. So just having enough room to get this many people out. And that's, again, those are things, that's where permitting and fire marshals come in handy. And they do a fantastic job of keeping us safe because, they say, no, you have to have for this many people, they have a formula and all that. No, you have to have at least 12 foot of egress right? So if we've got to swing the gates wide open and do a weather evacuation or an emergency or a fire or a shooter or any of these terrible things that can happen in a gathering, we have to be able to get this many people out quickly and safely without people getting trampled. Because if everybody's trying to go through one 3-foot door and there's 1,000 people, somebody's getting trampled. And that's what we do not want to ever see. So there's a lot of people involved and a lot of processes involved, but it all comes down to a lot of like our other topics. It always kind of comes back to both your planning and preparation and your documentation. So actually drawing it out, having a plan for all this, knowing where everything's going to go. My generator cannot go 2 feet from the stage. I don't want something with fuel, generating heat, everything else a foot off of the stage. Now, can it be 15 feet from the stage? Sure, that's fine. I don't have exhaust pumping onto the stage as well, things like that. So sometimes it's not even like deathly type of things, but it's just, it's not the safest situation. So same with rigging on a truss. Many times I've had people, whether it's our folks or I'm on a stage and it's another company, I've had somebody bring something down so we can adjust the rigging to make sure something was pulling to the side on the shackle and side loading the shackle inappropriately. And those are also teaching moments too, because a lot of times those aren't done by inexperienced people, but sometimes they are done by experienced people who either missed something or didn't know a nuance of something, because there can be a lot of nuances with rigging, where this particular technique works in this scenario, but it doesn't work in this scenario. And that's where having the qualified and experienced people around you. And then also, if in doubt, ask somebody there that knows better than you. And if there's nobody there that knows better and you still doubt, I've done this before. I've taken a picture of something and said, hey, this looks a little weird to me. Do you see anything weird with it? To one of my friends who is significantly more experienced in the production world. And he said, oh yeah, actually your chain bag should be here, and whatever. I don't remember the case, this was years ago. But I've done that as well, where you can even in real time, especially if you make friends and have a network of friends, ask somebody who would know. I kind of frown upon, I don't like doing stuff like that on social media in real time, but that's also something I see a lot of folks do there's various Facebook forums and online forums where, take the pictures, and then as long as you're not like, oh, this is a today safety problem, Facebook's not really the right place for that, is really what I'm getting at. But after the fact, it can be a good place for that, of like, hey, what should I have done differently here? This wasn't my work, but I saw this and something looks off. I don't know what it was. And a lot of times, even just asking those type of questions can get you, trust me, people will be very happy to educate you. Now, the flip side of that is, much like everything you read on the internet, you need to be a little careful and make sure you understand the source. So who is answering the question? Because I've also seen 1,000 wrong answers on things like that too. So you do have to, there's a little more editing that has to happen when you go online like that. Again, that's why it's not my favorite choice. Also, people will roast you and everything else, like, oh, you're the worst, you're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And, but it can be very productive. Back in the day, it's kind of died off, but before the Facebook forums kind of took everything over, it was Pro SoundWeb was really good at that. And there were audio forums on there with, basically you had to use your real name, and that all got verified actually on those forums. And the nice thing was people would put their positions there too. So I remember somebody asking a rigging question about PA, and the head rigger for IATSE, the stagehand union in New York, answered the question online. And so, those places do exist and those forums do exist. Also, there's places there's organizations you can join, whether it's Infocom, I'm trying to think of some other, PLASA, P-L-A-S-A, which is, I don't remember what it stands for. They have some rigging certifications, some different certifications. And then there's also some basic things like OSHA trainings that are very helpful. There's the OSHA 10 and the OSHA 40, I think it is, but they're different levels of training. And they teach you basically the things to look out for. We have the vast majority of our employees are forklift certified as well. So they go through certification and a training and we test them then to make sure they understand how to properly maneuver a forklift, because that's another huge safety thing, is things moving around actively on a site, things being forklifted on and off trucks. Unfortunately, I've seen a whole big old coffin full of expensive guitars dump off of a forklift. I've seen somebody get pinched in a forklift. They fortunately weren't like really hurt or anything. But there's a lot of different things that can happen in that scenario. Yeah, so forklifts are a major one and a major hazard. Also backing up trucks. This is something we've struggled with lately a little bit. We actually just did a spotter training for our whole team to get us all on the same page as well. We put a video out. Everybody's now signing and getting signed off that they are on the same page with doing it. And fortunately, nothing's been major, but lots of little like bumping the truck into somebody's car and creating, damage in an accident. And all of those could be really bad if, let's say, a person was behind the vehicle. So taking that safety very seriously of you as a production technician, whether you're in the truck, moving the truck, loading the truck, unloading the truck, using a forklift, not using a forklift, all of that, there are so many moving parts and so many heavy things that can either fall on you, roll over your foot, pinch you between a wall and that, break something. The amount of injuries that happen in our industry in just that small category of things is astronomical. And it actually ends up theatrical, I think is the category for workman's comp, is one of actually it's not up there with construction, but it's not too far down either. We have some of the highest rates of injuries. And a lot of that is really just paying attention and looking after each other. And those are kind of the main 2 points that I want to make with that is paying attention, being aware of your surroundings, is something leaning awkwardly on a wall. So we've had that happen before where we have these crank lifts. They're metal tripods that are real heavy. I think they weigh 40, 50 pounds of all metal, and they're tall, and people lean them against the wall because they're kind of hard to maneuver, and that makes the most sense. You don't have to bend over, they're heavy. But we had one, it's actually my brother, he had one tip over, hit him in the head, split his head open, had to go get staples. And that was because somebody had leaned it in the side of the truck, and then as they were moving around in the truck, a truck's not that solid of a surface, it wiggled just enough that it slipped off of the wall that was holding it and tipped down and hit him in the head. And again, thankfully he was fine, didn't get concussed or anything like that. It was just nothing a couple staples couldn't fix, but could have been much worse, honestly. Could have hit him in the eye, could have, lots of things, even in just the exact same scenario could have happened that could have been way worse. And we were very fortunate there. So now, anytime I see something like that leaning against a wall when I come through the warehouse, I'm like, get that? Nope, that needs to be in the little corral and strapped or laid down. And just things like that, paying attention to your surroundings, thinking of, you have to kind of walk around almost like I'm a dad of 3. So when my kids were toddlers, you start viewing the world differently because everything is something terrible that they could pull down on themselves or hurt themselves with. And you really have to treat production job sites that way of what terrible thing could possibly happen here? Oh, they're loading on and off the stage and they've taken the handrails off the side of the stage so that we could load on and off with the forklift. Well, that then that's a whole zone now that we need to really be aware of. It doesn't mean we can't continue to work. It doesn't mean, you can't continue to work in that area. It's just anybody who's over there needs to be aware. So also if you see somebody else and they're backing up holding something, right? Or holding a truss and not looking at their feet, it would be very easy to walk right off the edge, especially in the dark. A lot of times we end up working in, everything's black for a reason, right? We want it to disappear. But that also means the ground can disappear from out from under you. And we've seen it. We had it at it was very unfortunate. It wasn't our folks, it was the staging folks, but we had working a festival and the staging folks, there was something up with the extensions on the sides of the stage, decking that was built off the edge of the stage. And they had to adjust something. Well, they told the 1 or 2 people that were working right there, the monitor guy and somebody else, they were like, hey, we're gonna pull this deck for a minute and we gotta fix the supports underneath. So just don't step over here for a few minutes. And they're like, oh yeah, cool. Well, they didn't tell everybody on deck, nor did they could have put a cone, lots of things they could have done. They didn't do any of that. And unfortunately, a stagehand walked right into that hole and basically fell in the hole. Now it was only 5 or 6 feet, but it still hurts real bad when out of nowhere, right? And then also on top of that, she kind of hit the deck that they had slid off the side. She kind of hit that and then it came down and hit her. Again, fortunately she was okay. She didn't even need hospital treatment, but she was bruised. She had some, it was not good. And again, could have been way worse. Again, had that slid down 100 and something pound stage deck with metal extrusions on the sides, hit you right in the head or the eye or anything, or the neck or anything else like where we're vulnerable. And that's a really bad situation. You're talking about death or disability or like really bad stuff. Again, we were very fortunate in that, but that was a takeaway. I'd never seen that situation before. And I didn't know any of that was going on, nor did the stage manager. So that's another big thing with safety is if you see something that's a little iffy, letting your production manager or your stage manager, whoever's running that stage know, hey, I'm a little concerned about this. You know, they're working on the deck over here. Should we just like, let's pull a hand over here and have them stand here until they're done and just make sure nobody rolls anything. Because that's the other thing, the guys are working under there. What if somebody rolled a case in like through there and didn't see the gap in the deck? And now where, you know, you've got a continuous floor and then there's suddenly a hole in it, you know, that could be equally as bad or worse. Somebody pushing a heavy case, it drops in the hole, crushes the guy that's working below. So there was a terrible incident at EDC Orlando this year. A young man died during the building of the scaffolding. So they were building the big structure that they then mount everything to. And I don't know the details of it, so I'm not gonna really speak on it, but I know the basic gist of it is I think they did not have something supported with the forklift that would normally be supported with the forklift, like while they were still clicking supports in. And they were kind of moving quickly and moved a little too quickly, and that support wasn't firm enough, slipped, wedged the guy in, and basically like maimed him, completely cut him open and killed the guy. And you know, it was very, very traumatic incident obviously for the young man who died, as well as his family and loved ones, but also all the people working around him. Because I mean, it's very hard to come back to work after that and, you know, ever want to build a stage again when you see something like that or experiencing something like that. And ultimately, as amazing and fun as EDC is, nothing is worth somebody dying like that. And all of that, 99 times out of 100 is preventable as well. And that was preventable by, again, my understanding of the situation, and I don't want to speak too much out of turn on it. My understanding of the situation from people who were on site that had commented afterwards was that they were just moving too fast and not doing, you know, not taking that extra moment to make sure it was secured. And that cost that young man his life. And so that's why, in all seriousness, with all of this, a lot of these things seem like they're not a big deal. And as you do things more and more in this industry, things start to feel routine, and you can really kind of lose that edge of, hey, this is really dangerous, or this is really important. So that's what I would say is take everything you do in the production industry, or really everywhere, but especially in this world where we're rolling trucks load of stuff in and out of places every day. We're setting up complete cities when we set up these festivals that are temporary structures and then pulling them all back down. And we're doing it in a matter of days or weeks. We're doing it in these tight time frames. People are tired. They're working crazy long hours. You have to take the time, and you have to put the thought into how we're going to do this and all go home the same person that we showed up as, or physically at least. And we have to be able to do those things in a way where we prioritize health and safety of our people and of our patrons and everyone involved over speed, over the just get it done, or over the show must go on. The show does not need to go on if there is something that is going to hurt or kill somebody. And that is something that, you know, again, we've seen it too many times, too many accidents, too many incidents, could have been prevented had somebody slowed down and said, nope, it is not that important. Indiana State Fair, again, it was, I don't remember the exact, but it was around 100 people died, and even more got severely injured in that incident. And all of that was because the promoter, you know, really didn't want to refund the people because they weren't sure that they had to cancel. The weather looked like it was further out. They kind of ignored the warnings. All those things, all of it could have been prevented. And guess what? The concert didn't happen anyway. So either way, concert didn't happen. Would you rather people, you know, be unsafe, dead, have that on your conscience the rest of your life, or know, hey, I made a tough call, but we made the right call, or at least the right call, or the right reasons for that call? Because we've also had it where we've had people pull a show because we thought weather was coming in, and then no weather came in. We're in Florida, that stuff happens all the time. Ooh, that looks like it's gonna be terrible. Radar says it's terrible. For everyone's safety, we need to get everybody out of here and evacuated. And then it, goes a couple miles south and never even hits us. It's still the right call. It's still the right call if you're in doubt, and it's still the right call to put people's safety as a priority. So that's my take on event safety today. There's a lot more to it than that, but those are my priorities when it comes to event safety.